Well, it's good to be back here with y'all again. It's good to know why I am here, why I can be here as well, what it means for Brother Terry being away down home in McAllister, and that it means that Elder Davey is able to attend church too, and all those things that it means that I get to be here with y'all. I'm very thankful for all those things. As Brother Jim had mentioned, and as y'all have already prayed, continue to pray for me. I'm not settled on a subject this morning. I have been looking at various things here lately, and so I'm not sure where I'm going to go, but I know that this morning I want to mention something. Sister Jeannie, you don't know how much of an inspiration it is to everyone when you're able to attend. We can only imagine what you go through, how strong you have to be, how strong you have to be in the Lord, how hard it is to go through what you're going through, and to make it here truly is an inspiration. And I hope that you understand that, and I hope you see how much it is appreciated. I just want to say that to you on the record, sister. And I'm happy every time I get to see you. You're so sweet, and the Lord has blessed you greatly. So again, this morning, I am not certain. I've got so many things running through my mind this morning. Let's try reading a little bit here in the book of Galatians chapter 5, y'all. The book of Galatians chapter 5. In fact, let's back up just a few verses into chapter 4, y'all. I've mentioned many times in the past how though the verses and the chapters, those being added after the fact, how helpful they are and how thankful I am for them. For instance, I'm able to tell you exactly where to turn right now. But that they were added after the fact, that these were written as, in this case, Galatians was a letter to a group of churches and was meant to be read in its entirety to the church. But of course, in our time we have a limited amount, and so we have to pick and choose what we're going to emphasize here, where we're going to begin reading. And so here, where it starts with a stand fast, therefore, in the first verse of chapter 5, I'd like to back up just a little bit and get a little piece of the therefore, so it fits it into its context. So let's start with verse 22 of chapter 4, shall we? And we pray the Lord will bless us here. For it is written, and I know it starts with for, but we got to pick somewhere, right? For it is written that Abraham had two sons, the one by a bondmaid, the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh. But he of the free woman was by promise, which things are an allegory. For these two are the two covenants. That's the allegory that he's talking about. They're going to stand in for us to understand the two different covenants that are taught here in the book of Galatians. For these are the two covenants. The one from Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, which is Hagar's son, the bondwoman's son. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is, and is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free. which is the mother of us all. Us all here that are reading this, that are sitting under the sound of this, that are understanding this. It's the mother of us all. For it is written, rejoice, thou barren that bearest not. Break forth and cry, thou that travailest not. For the desolate hath many more children than she which hath an husband. Now, we brethren are, as Isaac was, are the children of promise. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the Spirit, capital S, even so it is now. Nevertheless, what saith the Scripture? Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of the free woman. So then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, but of the free. So this is part of the description of the liberty that he's going to tell us about in the very next verse. That he's going to tell us what to do with it, I should say. This is a description, a partial description of that liberty that we have, that we are not under the law, that we are not in bondage under the law, because he says that the law was a bondage. And one of the reasons that it was a bondage was because it was something we couldn't do. We couldn't keep that law. We could not keep that law. Now, that law was not given primarily for us to keep. We must always remember what the purpose of the law was. It was to teach us something. It was to show us this is the standard and you cannot meet it. It was never a standard for us to meet because we couldn't meet it. It was a goal for us to strive to, for sure, but it was not a standard for us to live up to. It was to show us that we needed a Savior and to show us what he was going to look like. The standard that he was going to keep. He was going to keep it for his own glory, and he was going to keep it on our behalf. And so he freed us from that bondage. We are not as children. It says elsewhere in the Galatians that we were children. The Israelites were children kept under the law, raised up under tutors. That they didn't have the liberty that we have, that he's going to tell us a little bit more about here in chapter 5. That they didn't have the liberty to just go and do and live wherever they wanted to and live however they wanted to. That they had to live under certain rules and regulations that we are free from. And not only that, but we can see more clearly what those rules and regulations are for, what those laws are for, how they are to be lived out in our life, freeing us from the wrong belief of what they mean. That we weren't believing they were one thing when they were really something else. We had so many of the Israelites that didn't understand what that law was for, that really thought it was something they could keep, and really thought that if they kept it, that would make them pure, that would make them righteous, that would make them fit to be in God's presence, fit to be in heaven. And of course, a born-again child of God is going to strive for that which is out of reach. A born-again child of God is going to know that they can't actually keep that law. And so it's constant bondage, constant striving to get up to that standard that they themselves know they can't possibly reach. It's a bondage. We have so many of our brothers and sisters, so many of our cousins out there, we might say, that are in that bondage to this very day. They are still striving about the law, trying to what does the Scripture say? Trying to establish their own righteousness, not submitting themselves unto Christ. So we have this liberty. We have this great liberty. We are now freed from the law, freed from all of those rules and regulations. We now have the law of Christ within us. It gives us this great liberty that we're now freed from the wrong belief of what the law does, and we're now set at liberty to understand what the law really does do, And we're now set at liberty to live this life. We've been given this new life. We've been given the Spirit of God within us. We've been given the mind of Christ so that we can now go out into this world and bear His light in every aspect of our lives. We now can go forth with His name stamped on us. We don't have this great burden of this standard we got to live up to try to save ourselves, to this great burden that we got to live up to try to not only save ourselves, but to save everyone around us. Knowing that we can't do it, constantly striving for it, trying to accomplish something we can't accomplish. That we've been freed from that. That's what we've been freed from, is that bondage. Constantly trying to accomplish something we know we can't accomplish. But so many of God's people are confused. So many of them don't have this light, and they know that they can't accomplish it, and yet they have this belief that they must accomplish that which they cannot accomplish. That is bondage. We've been freed from that. We now see that we don't have to go about establishing our own righteousness. That righteousness has been placed within us. We can now go out into the world released from that to do what it is He's called us to do, not to save ourselves, not to establish our righteousness, but to share that righteousness with His people in our daily lives. That's the liberty that we have been called to, that we've been given. And so He says, stand fast in that liberty. That liberty, properly understood. You see, especially I think here in America, we really have a mixed up, confused belief and definition of the word freedom. We really do think, and I think we Americans are particularly prone to this. And we have had such great political liberty for so long, and economic liberty in many different ways for so long, that we have taken that to be what the definition of liberty is, that I am free to do whatever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want. And that's not what freedom is. I've often said, is a fish free if it believes its job is to climb up trees? That don't sound like freedom to me. That sounds like bondage, trying to accomplish something which I can't accomplish. That's not freedom. Freedom is to do what I was born to do, what I was created to do, to the best of my ability. Because I have all the abilities to do that thing. Because I was created to do that thing. A fish is free to swim anywhere in the water that he wants to go, and he's way better at it than I am. He can go upstream and downstream and sideways, and he can even swim up and jump out of the water and land back in the water. I can't do that. I've tried. But he's free. You look at him when he swims. You look at that bird when he flies. I watch, we live out there in the country outside McAllister. Of course, we got animals, and so the hawks are around all the time, right? All the time. We got dogs to protect our chickens and all that. Got a turkey to help protect them and so forth. And so the hawks don't really bother us, but they can't stay away. They still fly all over trying to snatch up one of them chickens. We got coyotes and stuff like that as well around trying to get them. But the hawks, they fly around, and I watch them, and they're just beautiful. Just gorgeous. They're flying around up there, and then I'll see them often. They'll just be gliding, not even flapping their wings. Just gliding along with the wind, and then you'll see them just shoot up. It'll be one of those, they call them thermals, or some hot air rising or whatever off the ground, and it'll just float right up, not even moving their wings. Talk about freedom. We even have an expression, free as a bird. It's the wind, they just get to ride free on the wind. Don't even got to flap their wings and pay that energy cost, right? That's the freedom we're talking about. Those hawks, if they thought that they had to swim through the water, and that's what they were created to do, they wouldn't be very good at it, would they? They'd drown, in fact. And so many of God's people, that's what they're doing. They're drowning under the weight of this burden of the law. And I don't think we appreciate this knowledge that we have, y'all. I don't think that we appreciate this liberty that we have. And I think that's what Paul is going to talk about, is we take this liberty too far. Like we talked about, the freedom to do whatever I want. We take it too far. So he says, stand fast. Don't move. You are in a place. Stay in that particular place. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty, singular, not a liberty, the liberty, wherewith Christ hath made us free. That liberty, wherewith. Okay? That's going to tell us both a how and a where. Okay? Both a how and a where. In fact, I'd add a third thing and say with. Because he didn't just do it, he's with us in it. Okay? Anyway, so a wherewith, the way that he made us free, the right understanding of that. Okay? Because it matters. That's what we've been talking about. How it came about. Okay? And now that we're in it, how we ought to be in that liberty. Okay? And of course, because he's with us in it, we can do this. So, the how of it. What he's been talking about throughout the book of Galatians here, they had been made free by the Spirit. They had been born again by the Spirit. They had been taught and converted into the knowledge of the true doctrine by the Holy Spirit, not by any works at all, not by baptism, not by circumcision, not by any works of the law at all, but only by the free grace of God and the Holy Spirit. That's how they had come to the knowledge of the truth, how they'd come into the church. And then they had people coming in, these Judaizers coming in and trying to both drag Old Testament religion into the New Testament, trying to put the new wine in old bottles, but also their bastardized, corrupted version of Judaism. And they were trying to drag in and say, no, you can't do it without these works. It's got to be circumcision, or it's got to be the dietary laws, or it's got to be what you wear, or it's got to be who you know. It's all these other things that they keep adding on, all these burdens, all these laws and rituals and rules that we've got to keep that actually make us free, that actually save us. That's what he's been talking about. Okay? And so that how he made us free, how we got into this liberty, how it came about, understanding that it was all of him and none of me. Understanding that it was all of grace and none of works. Understanding how he got me into this liberty and not that I got myself into it. Does that make sense? That wherewith is carrying a lot of weight for us here. It's doing a lot of work. There's a whole lot packed into it. So we need to understand how we got where we are. And if we don't understand either one of those things, then we're not in that same place. We don't have that liberty. If we don't understand both of those things, I should say. Okay? We need to understand both how we got where we are and where we are. They're related. Right? If somebody asked me how I got to church today, but I don't know where I started out that journey from, well, there's going to be part of that how that's left out, ain't there? Right? I've got to understand the source. I've got to understand the destination to have any hope of understanding the journey in between those two, right? Okay? So if I want to understand where I am, I've got to understand how I got there. And if I want to understand how I got there, I've got to understand where I started out from. That makes sense, y'all. Well, I talk about this a lot. I guess it's always on my mind. Back in Isaiah chapter 51, verse 1. One of my favorite places. Because to me, it shows the whole story. It doesn't explain it all, but it tells us the beginning and the end, the journey's beginning and the journey's destination here in Isaiah chapter 51, verse 1. Hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness, ye that seek, I got to put me a bookmark over here in Galatians, ye that seek the Lord, look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged. Okay? So he tells us first about where we are, the destination. Okay, the end of the journey. At least an end of the journey, because we're still here in time. We ain't in eternity yet. Okay? And then he tells us about the source of that, where we came from. And so now we can see that there's a delta, there's a huge difference. There's a journey that went from one of those to the other one of those. Right? So hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness. There's an audience there. I'm telling you, the whole Bible is in this one verse, y'all. The whole thing. All the doctrine that we need to know, it's all called out here. Okay? Ye that follow after righteousness. He ain't talking to nobody else. That's who he's talking to. Ye that seek the Lord. That's who he's talking to. Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn. We are hewn out of that rock. Well, when you break a piece of rock off of another rock, what is that piece of rock? It's a piece of rock. It's just like the rock you knocked it off of, ain't it? It's got all the same attributes. Right? It's made of the same stuff. Okay? The rock whence ye are hewn, and to the hole of the pit. I love that double. It's not just a hole and it ain't just a pit. Right? It's the hole of a pit. That's pretty far down. Right? The hole of the pit whence ye are digged. Okay? We have got to understand where we came from to have any hope of understanding where we are now, never mind where we shall be. And we got to understand where we are now to have any hope of understanding where we come from. It really is an impossibility. It's the chicken or the egg kind of thing. It really is. It's eternity inhabiting time, which is not possible because time is limited and eternity isn't. It really is impossible. One of the things, y'all know I like to study language. And one of the things that's occurred to me is how, you think about this. How do I learn what a word means? Well, I'm going to look up its definition, right? Okay. Well, what is a definition made of? Words. Well, I got to understand what all them words mean. Okay? So I go look them up. What are their definitions made up of? It's like eternity. Each word has all the other words in it. You ever think about just how impossible it is to learn a language? It's crazy. It really is crazy. Anyway, so we have eternity inhabiting time, which is not possible. And yet, here we are. See, we think about miracles as if they're these things that we've never seen and never heard of. We don't understand just how miraculous everyday little small things are. You know, the fact that a father sticks around and parents his kids and loves his wife. And the whole world out there is trying to get him to stop doing that. That a mother loves her husband, submits to her husband, and raises and loves her children. And we can see every minute of every day the world trying to get her to stop doing that. These are everyday miracles. Well, we don't think of them like that. But they are. That's an eternity inhabiting time, which is impossible. So, when the Apostle Paul is telling us over here back in Galatians chapter 5 to stand fast therefore in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, we got to understand what that liberty is, where it is, what its borders are. That's the other thing we need to understand. Everything has borders, or else it don't exist. Everything has borders, or else that thing doesn't exist. You can't be A and not A. Make sense? Okay? If I invite you over to my house, it has walls. You can come in to my house and you are inside those walls. If you step outside those walls, you are not in my house. You might be in my yard, but you ain't in my house. Right? There's my house and not my house. Okay? So everything has borders. Everything. My skin. Right? There's what's in me and there's what ain't in me. And the two ain't the same thing. Okay? So everything has to have borders or it don't exist. Okay? So liberty has to have borders, or else it don't exist. There's what I am free to do, and there's what I ain't free to do. Right? And if there weren't things that I'm not free to do, then there can't be something I'm free to do. Does that make sense? It's hard to think about it first. It took me most of my life to understand this. I was one of those super Americans, so American I wasn't even American. Okay, that's how American I was. Right? Because I was outside the bounds. Right? To think that no, freedom had to be freedom from all rules. No rules apply to me or else I ain't free. And that's just foolish. But that's what the carnal mind is. It's enmity. The thing is, our nature, our natural mode of being, y'all, is to stand, to know that eternal God exists. We know that. That's what Romans 1 tells us. We know, the carnal mind knows God exists. It's just shaking its fist at him, hating him, trying to stop him, knowing he's eternal and I'm this little bitty time-bound thing. How on earth could I possibly stop him? And yet that's all I'm consumed with, is trying to stop an unstoppable force. That's how absurd the carnal mind is. The flesh is. It's that absurd. Obviously, I can't. If there's a God that has the power to speak the entire universe into existence, obviously I can't say to him, "What doest thou?" Never mind stopping. But that's what the flesh does. It's unbounded. It lives by no rules. So liberty has to have borders or it doesn't exist. So I can stand fast in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made me free, or I can stand fast somewhere else. Or I can walk all around as if there ain't no borders anywhere. Okay? So what he's calling us to do is stand fast in not just liberty, period, end of story. No. In the liberty, singular. The liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free. That liberty, we got to understand what the borders are of that liberty in order for us to stand in it. Does that make sense? Okay? And I got to know where the borders are so I don't step outside of it. I'm free to walk all around in it that I want to. Okay? I'm free to walk all around that place, that liberty, all that I want to. Oh man, I can't find it. There's a psalm I want to go to right now, but I can't. But I can't find it. I can't remember where it is. And I cannot get my pages to turn. I can't. No, I guess I'm not supposed to go there, y'all. All right. So back over here. So this liberty has to have well-defined borders if I'm going to find it, and I'm going to stand in it. I'm going to stand fast. Okay? So stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free. And be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. You see, we've been made free from something. We've not just made free to something. We've been made free from something. Okay? And we can go back to that thing. I've talked about the metaphor, because the scriptures use this, life and death, that we were dead in trespasses and sins. And like a dead body, we were laid on a slab in a graveyard. Okay? But just like Lazarus over there in John chapter 11, just like the Lord stands before the tomb of Lazarus, he has men remove the stone over the grave. And then he brings Lazarus back to life, and Lazarus comes up out of that grave. I think he was hopping. Some people think he levitated. I don't know. Either one sounds good to me. He comes up out of that grave. He's still bound in the grave clothes. He's still, to some degree, acting like he's still dead, even though he ain't dead. And then he has men, those that were standing about, come and take all of that. Those that already cared about Lazarus, he had them come and take all them grave clothes off of him. And now, not only did he already have the liberty to go out and be like like somebody who's alive, but he lacked some of the ability because he was still bound up. He could hop around, but he couldn't walk freely. He couldn't move his arms freely. He couldn't see very well because he had that napkin over his face, so he'd probably bump into things. But now all of that has been taken off of him, and so now not only does he have all the faculties that he was made with his legs and his body and his arms and his hands and his fingers and toes and all those things, but now he can see. He's got light to be able to see where everything is and really navigate this new life that he has. But he doesn't have to. He can get bound right back up with all them grave clothes. He can go right back into that graveyard. He can go down into that grave and he can lay on that slab and pretend to be dead. He can do that. Or he can stand fast in the liberty that Christ made him free. He can act like a live body, or he can pretend to be a dead body. He's alive either way. But if he goes in there and he pretends to be dead and he lays there long enough without eating and drinking, he's going to die. That's what sin does. Sin kills. We don't think of that. We don't think of it like that either. But that's what sin is. It's death. It's like wanting to smell like you're dead but not be dead. Well, those two things go together. You can't have one without the other, thank God. Stand fast, therefore. The why of it and the how of it. Okay, the therefore reminds us of the why of it. Okay, why are we now in this liberty? Okay, and the wherewith tells us about the how of it. We need to understand both of them things. The Lord didn't love me and save me because I'm so doggone lovable. That's not the why of it. He didn't save me, he didn't love me because I kept the law. That's not the why of it. You see, there's the why and there's the how. And we got to get both of them rightly divided. Either one of them can lead us off track, because if I don't understand where my journey begins and I don't understand where the destination is that I'm shooting for, I ain't never going to make it. I've got to understand them both to know where I truly am and what that means for me. What is this liberty? Where are the borders? What I was trying to go find over there in Psalms, and it's gone from my mind, is walk about Zion. Is 190?
119.
119.
Look at it.
Psalms 119?
119:45. See if that's one more.
Okay, 119. Let's go look that up. 119th Psalm. You said verse 45?
Yeah.
And I will walk at liberty, for I seek thy... Ooh, that's a good one, Brother Jim. Thank you. Verse 41, let thy mercies come also unto me, O Lord, even thy salvation. According to thy word, so shall I have wherewith to answer him that reproacheth me. For I trust in thy word. And take not the word of truth utterly out of my mouth, for I have hoped in thy judgments. So shall I keep thy law continually forever and ever. And I will walk at liberty, for I seek thy precepts. I will speak of thy testimonies also before kings, and will not be ashamed. And I will delight myself in thy commandments, which I have loved. My hands also will I lift up unto thy commandments, which I have loved. I will meditate in thy statutes. Presumably it's David here. David didn't write all the Psalms, but we're going to assume David did. Probably a safe bet here, 119th Psalm. We know that David didn't keep the law perfectly forever. And yet what does he say here? I will walk at liberty, for I seek... Oh no, right before that, verse 44. So shall I keep thy law continually forever and ever. Obviously he doesn't mean that David will be perfect in keeping the law every moment of every day for his natural life. That isn't what he means. So what he does here, he points us right again back to Christ. The liberty that I've been set to. The liberty that I've been brought into by his keeping of the law. Not by mine, but in the person of Jesus Christ. Not in the concept, not in the idea, not in the ideal, but in the person. Jesus Christ was a man. In the person of Christ, I kept the law perfectly. because he kept the law perfectly. So if we don't understand the how and we don't understand the why, then we don't know where liberty is. We don't know where the borders are, where we're safely inside of it. And we have full freedom. And where the borders are and we step over them. And now we're out here in this low ground, this cursed ground. Another analogy or metaphor that makes sense to me is a garden. That there is where the garden is, and there is where the garden ain't. And I can keep going back to where the garden ain't looking for the fruit, and I ain't never going to find it, because that ain't the garden. The garden is where it is, and I got to go there if I want to get the fruit. Right? So here, back in Galatians chapter 5, verse 1, stand fast, therefore, we got to get the why of it, in the liberty wherewith, we got to get the how of it, wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. I have been made free. I've been made alive, and I've been made free to be all that a live body can be. But if I don't understand that, if I don't understand what the truth is, then I can be taken advantage of by the peddlers of falsehood. I can be taken advantage of by people that say that, no, I'm still dead, and I've got to claw myself out of that grave and walk out of that graveyard, thinking that I'm under bondage when I'm not, thinking that I'm dead when I'm alive. We got to understand this, to be not entangled again, because I was entangled with the yoke of bondage. I don't want to go back under that bondage. The children left Egypt. The children of Israel left Egypt, and they wanted to go right back as soon as things got a little bit hard. And you know, here's the thing for us, y'all, because ain't nothing hard here in America. As soon as they had to depend on the Lord just a little bit, as soon as they couldn't make their own way, they had to wait for that manna to come down. They couldn't stock up. Right? They couldn't just go to the store and get as much as they want and then trust in that pantry that they got. That's where their trust is. If I got food in the pantry, then I'm safe. I'm okay. Everything's good. I have peace in my mind because of what I've done. I built this nice little pantry here, and I got all the stuff, and that's what I can trust in. And they tried when he first gave them that manna. He told them, don't collect extra and store it till tomorrow. But that's exactly what they did. They wanted to trust in their own labors, in their own works, thinking that that was freedom. And what it was bondage. So we need to stand fast in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free. And so he goes on to say, behold, I, Paul, say unto you, that if ye be circumcised, this is one of the yokes of bondage that these Judaizers were putting them under. If I say to you that if ye be circumcised, Christ shall profit you nothing. It doesn't mean that you've lost what Christ has given you. That's not what he's saying, right? That you're now unsaved in any sort of way, right? No, what he's saying here is that there is no profit, no Christian profit in that circumcision. There may be a reason to do it, a good health reason or whatever to do it, but there is no salvation-based reason for doing it, that it bears no profit to you. It doesn't make you more Christ-like. There's no profit. For I testify again to every man that is circumcised, that was merely one part of the law. And the law was one whole. But if you're going to keep any jot of it, you have to keep all the tittles too. For I testify again that to every man that is circumcised, that he is a debtor to do the whole law. Christ has become of no effect unto you. Why? Because you don't believe that Christ accomplished what he accomplished. You don't believe that you are in fact in that land of liberty and that you have full freedom to walk about Zion and to tell the towers thereof. You don't believe that, so you don't live in accordance with that. If I believe that I'm dead, then I'm going to lay on that slab, in that grave, in that cemetery. And I don't get any of the benefits of the actual live body that I am. That's what he's talking about. That it profits me nothing. That Christ has become of no effect. That as I live and walk out in this world, if I pretend to be dead, then I get no effect of the life that I actually have. Does that make sense? That's what he's talking about. Christ has become of no effect unto you. Whosoever of you are justified by the law. Whosoever of you that believe you are justified by the law. For the law never justified anyone. Ye are fallen from grace. That's how you're living as if that were true. You're living as if that were true. Thanks be to God, that is not true. For we, through the capital S Spirit, wait for the hope of righteousness by faith. We wait for the hope of righteousness. Now, I believe that this Bible is God's holy word, inerrant. There are no errors in it. But I think that R ought to be capitalized. That's just me. Okay? Because the hope of my righteousness is Jesus Christ. Okay? For we, through the Spirit, wait for the hope of righteousness by faith. We hear a lot about lived experience. And here's my lived experience. I'm a sinner. Indeed, with Paul, I'm the chief of sinners. That's what I know. That's what I experience. I know the Bible tells me that the hope of righteousness, the Spirit of God's Son, Jesus Christ, is within me. And so to that extent, I know the Scriptures tell me that I have righteousness within me. But what I experience, what I know, is I'm a sinner. All the way down to the bone. That's what I know. Okay? I'm waiting for the hope of that righteousness. I can't wait for that day. I can't wait for that day. So many people I can't wait to see. Brother Freddie, he's still going to have that cap on. Brother Ab, so many of our brothers and sisters. But I can't wait to see my Lord. I can't wait to see my Lord. I won't have to hope anymore. You see, our brothers and sisters that have gone on, they don't have to hope anymore. We know by hope, but they know. They know. They know that which we hope for. We wait for it. They got it. And we miss them. But we wouldn't call them back here. We wouldn't call them back here. Skip down to verse 7. No, verse 8. Verse 8. Skip down to verse 8. This persuasion to drag anything into the New Testament liberty that we have, this persuasion cometh not of him that calleth you, the one that called us out of the grave into this liberty that we have. This persuasion cometh not of him that calleth you. A little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. And that's the point of what we've been saying today. That if we don't understand the how and we don't understand the why of where we are now, then we aren't really there. We see a lot of our family that are in church today. Looks similar, sounds similar, they're dressed similar, they're saying similar words, but it's not the same place. They don't see where the borders are. And we know that they don't see it because it's hid from them. We know that we see it only because it was revealed to us by the sovereign, unaided work of God. Do we appreciate that? Do we? Do we value that which is given to us freely and is withheld from the majority of God's people? Do we really appreciate that? Do we see this uncountable gift that we have as the uncountable gift that it is? I don't think I do. I don't appreciate it like that. I don't value it even close to the way I ought to. You know? I don't really think that I understand. I don't think I believe all the time like I ought to believe. I don't think that I think maybe I need to read these words again every day just to remind myself where I am, where the Lord has brought me up to, the rock from whence I am hewn, and stop trying to crawl back down into the hole of the pit whence I am digged. I'm not in the hole of that pit anymore, and I shouldn't act like it. I should act like a child of promise. I should act like I'm free, because I am. May the Lord multiply his blessings is my prayer.